Now to talk more about the threat from North Korea as we wait for this news conference out of Texas as well. Gordon Chang, author of Nuclear Showdown, North Korea Takes on the World, and retired U.S. Navy Admiral Robert Natter. Admiral, let me start with you. We've been around this block many times talking about the possible military options. You just heard Jennifer's piece, but it is on the mind of leaders here in Asia, especially we're going to talk to Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. The thought that the U.S. may do something if North Korea doesn't pull back.
Well, I think it's obvious, Brett, that the U.S. military has moved forces into the area, some of which have been talked about, and many, quite frankly, are going to be unseen until if required. The reality is no one in the United States leadership that I've spoken with is anxious to go and have to conduct military operations here. But we would be remiss and we would not be responsible if we were not prepared to do so.
Can you remember, though, Admiral, a time when that many aircraft carrier battleships were all together? 3.
Oh, I certainly can. 3 is a pretty powerful number. What you have to remember is that it represents over 1/4 of our aircraft carriers and a good number of our surface ships and submarines, most of which are unseen. But, for example, during the invasion of Iraq, we deployed 5 carrier battle groups. And the benefit of those ships is that they can deploy anywhere, anytime. International law allows us to go anywhere in international waters, and we often do.
Yeah, I met the battle groups as well. Gordon, if you're these leaders here, what are you expecting out of this trip as you meet with President Trump on the issue of North Korea?
I think the most important thing will be the trip to Seoul, because right now you have a South Korean leadership that is very much pro-China, pro-North Korea. There was just an agreement on Tuesday between South Korea and China, and the South Koreans, although they are our alliance partners, didn't talk to us beforehand. And so this is a problem that Trump has got to deal with when he's in South Korea. And the Chinese are going to be taking their cues from what happens in Seoul, because if Trump has a successful stop there, they, I think, will be accommodative toward Trump. But if we don't have a good stop there, then I think China will be even more recalcitrant. You know, North Korea is at the top of the issue, and I think that it all boils down to what happens in the South Korean capital.
You know, Gordon, there was an aggressive speech yesterday by the president here in Japan in which he referred to the Japanese as warriors, suggesting perhaps that they are going to change their constitution and allow a defense of this country. And you know, a lot of people in the U.S. talk about the nuclear weapon threat for places like South Korea and Japan affecting China.
Yes, you know, and that's important because before President Trump left, he had that interview with Laura Ingraham on Thursday. And basically he said the same thing, warrior nation. Well, he also said that that was a warning to China. And this is a reversal of decades of American policy where we restrained the Japanese. Now what he's doing is he's saying to China, look, I'm going to use the same tactics that you use. You use North Korea as a proxy against us. I'm going to use Japan as a proxy against you. And I think people in Beijing must be pretty nervous right now because that is such a monumental change for us. And they've got to understand that President Trump is going to do everything possible to defend the American people.
And Admiral, last word, what do you think the chances are that Kim Jong-un does something provocative while President Trump is on this trip?
Well, history tells us he's totally unpredictable, as was his father and grandfather. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think it would be very smart. And with respect to your last question, the Japanese people would be totally irresponsible not to have a capability to defend themselves. And even their Constitution from day one has allowed them to do that.
Yeah. Admiral Gordon Chang, thank you very much. I'm sure we'll be talking throughout this trip.